Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is the Nostradamus himself, KC Onyebuchi, and the man with the keys to victory, the MMA encyclopedia himself, John Keys. What's up, y'all?
Hold on. We're not even going to let that slide. You know what he did, Casey. You just saw what he did, right?
No, I missed it.
He called you Nostradamus.
That's
yeah,
right.
That's the thing, because I smell victories.
He smells victory. It's Nostradamus.
Oh, you do, and that you do, my friend. That
Dude, we've been calling him that for like.
I didn't even get to say my what up or nothing. Brian's like moving past.
No,
KC.
The Nostradamus. I mean, we've been calling him that since like episode 80 something, huh?
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, can you smell what I'm cooking? But I feel like that might be copyrighted.
No, it's not. Believe it or not, because you didn't say who. You didn't say the full phrase, so you can actually get away with it.
I kind of want to. I can't wait for fight picks now.
Okay,
that's call back.
All right. We will call back there because this weekend was an underdog weekend as two significant underdogs faced the odds on the 1st of June. Anthony Lionheart Smith traveled to Stockholm, Sweden to face Alexander Gustafsson, a light heavyweight favorite looking to climb back into championship contention, and Andy Ruiz Jr., a heavyweight contender with 4 weeks to train and nothing to lose, who faced the WBA, the IBG, the WBO, and the IBO heavyweight champion 22-0 Anthony Joshua, who is making his American debut at the mecca for boxing, Madison Square Garden. But before we go too far into the shock that was this weekend, let's go through all the results in the official decision.
The official decision.
This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights that were this weekend, and it was UFC Fight Night Gustafsson versus Smith, Saturday, June 1st, 2019, at the Ericsson Globe Arena in Stockholm, Sweden. There were 5 fights on the card, supposed to be 6. I had to do the counting real quick.
Quick maths. 2 + 2 = 4.
Minus 1, that's 3 quick maths. Everyday man's on the block. Smoke trees. All right.
I thought I was going to get you to do the whole thing.
No,
again.
we don't have time to do the whole thing anymore. So, I let you know that I got your call and I called back. There you go. Daniel Tamer defeated Sung Bin Jo via unanimous decision. Christos Giagos defeated Damir Hadzovic via unanimous decision. Makwan Amir Khani defeated Chris Fishgold via submission in round 2. Alexander Rakic defeated the poster boy, Jimmy Manuwa, via TKO. It wasn't a TKO. It was a KO in round 1. This was a buffer factor fail, a jab cross kick, head kick, knockout, timber style, buffer factor fail.
Rocked him.
That's right.
Yes, he was starched. Okay, I mean, it was, I felt bad.
Man, Jimmy Manuwa got kicked so hard, Rakic had him dreaming that he won. Dude fell down, hands up in victory. His eyes were closed.
Got him. Well played, sir. Well
Man,
played.
I told y'all last week, I was like, I have no more confidence in Jimmy Manuwa. I said it last week. Check the record for last week. That's what I said. I had Rakic on this fight. Rakic posterized him. Dude was ready for the picture. Head kick.
Yep, it's hard for me to rule out a guy like Jimmy Manuwa because I'm a big fan of heavy punchers, but it's not been working out well lately for guys with big hands.
No, You'd think they'd use those big hands to cover their big heads, but clearly not. So this is a buffer factor fail. As we always say, that a fight needs to last at least as long as it takes to announce it. It took 65 seconds to announce it. The fight only lasted 45 seconds. That's a 1.4 time buffer factor fail. Jimmy Manuwa, I think it's time to consider future opportunities in other industries.
Whoa.
Oh. That's hasty.
Yeah.
Why is it hasty? The dude has been plastered like his last 3 fights. I mean, you know, one is a fluke, 2 is a line, but 3 is a trend.
Good old vectors.
I'm just saying. Like, what are we gonna do?
Say it to his face.
Yeah.
Say it to his face.
Listen, after the look, I used to be afraid, but now I might dare say it to his face because I mean, look at the. Seems like anybody can knock this dude out.
Insult to injury. Wow. So that's what's up.
No,
Okay.
that's harsh. That's harsh. Our mantra is
Jimmy
respect the man in the
Manuel,
arena.
this, it was not John Keys that said that. That was all Ryan Smith.
No. I'm making jokes. I'm making jokes. It's about the man in the arena. Jimmy Manuel got in the arena, and he left the arena with assistance
On a stretcher.
but we still respect the effort. Jimmy Manuel, much respect, but I really am concerned. This seems to be whenever Jimmy Manuel gets knocked out. I mean, when he loses, he gets knocked out, and it's pretty devastating. So we need to stop seeing that. So I'd like to see him win one, but I don't. Man, this is like when he's 39 years old. When Iceman started hitting, Chuck Liddell started getting up in age. He started getting devastating knockout after devastating knockout. If we're going to put Iceman out to retirement, I think it's time to start looking at Jimmy Manuel and say, "Hey, can you stay competitive in the sport?" And right now, I mean, it's Alexander Rakic. Like, has you guys heard of him before Saturday? Because I know you heard of him Saturday, but before Saturday.
So you're saying Rakic is to Manuel what Rashad Evans was to Iceman?
No, because Rashad Evans is a Hall of Famer. Dude was an ultimate fighter. Like Alexander Rakic has, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't have a name that we have talked about on the show in 97 episodes.
Oh, believe me, when Rashad Evans first came on the scene, you know, he was from the Ultimate Fighter. They were like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he knocked out Iceman, and it was like, you know, oh, my God. And Iceman had that look like he just saw Jesus for a few seconds there. And I mean,
we heard it here first.
Yes.
That means that you are calling Rakic a future Hall of Famer. Count it.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll run with it.
Yeah, we're going to be back like 50
proud.
episodes from now and be like, Rakic is going to getting raked across the coals. You'll be like, yeah, where's that Hall of Famer now?
How that guy get his face raked across the fence, we do not know. Okay.
We're supposed. That was the co-main event of the night. It was supposed to be Ilir Latifi versus Volkan Ozdemir. I was super excited about that fight, but Ilir Latifi came down with a back injury on Thursday before the fight on Saturday, and so therefore they were not able to rebook that fight for Volkan Ozdemir. So hopefully we'll see those two in action very, very soon. In the main event of the evening, Anthony the Lionheart Smith defeated Alexander Gustafsson via submission in round 4. This started off as an aerobic. It looks like aerobics.
My goodness.
It was like a fitness thing. Like
it was hard to pay attention to Gustafsson. Like the man was running for the first 40 seconds, no contact was made at all. He's on a bike.
Yeah. I mean, it was the most bizarre thing. Like, Gustafsson he really wasn't trying to engage. He was just trying to make Smith chase him. And Smith is like, listen, I've been around for like 40 fights. I've seen a lot in my day. I know not to chase you.
Yeah.
Well, that is true. I was kind of concerned. I'm not going to lie, because as I was listening to all the interviews leading up to this, Anthony sounded a little not focused for the fight. So I was kind of scared for a moment. And then he showed up in the ring, and he was there for business. And he gave some business. And it was a slick submission in round 4 that got it to him. But that's not the real news that we should be talking about.
Hold on, though. Okay. But let's talk about this, though, because Anthony Lionheart Smith was winning the first 2 rounds. And it wasn't really because he was doing a tremendous amount of damage. It was really because Alexander Gustafsson wasn't engaging. And so it was really by virtue of being the aggressor, Anthony Smith was winning the rounds. And then came round 3. Alexander turned it on. And, I talked about it in last week's show that's the Alexander that we're looking for, the rangy guy that's going to use his kicks and use his elite boxing to keep you on the ends of his punches and then really control the fight, gas you out over 5 rounds, and beat you usually by decision is what I was calling. And so we saw that in the 3rd round.
A little bit of that was because of the broken hand. If we're honest, if you watch the left hand of Lionheart, you can tell that he throws a body shot after he lands the hook onto Alexander's forehead. He throws the body shot and realizes, I never want to throw with this left again. So his whole left side is exposed, and he gets eaten up for the rest of the 3rd round.
Yeah, but the thing is that Alexander Gustafsson lands a vicious body kick and turns it into a takedown and starts ground and pounding to end the round. Like, it was a fantastic round. But here's the thing for me. It's what is it? Socrates said, know thyself. Alexander Gustafsson, you are a boxer and a kickboxer. You were not a grappler. You're definitely not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt like your opponent. So why the heck in the 4th round are you going to try to take him down? Why are you going to do that? Like, that was the one thing Anthony Smith needed you to do, was take him down, because he reversed it, took his back, and then stretched him out, rear naked choke, and now Alexander Gustafsson's like, I want to quit fighting.
It was Gustafsson's strategy from the jump, though. First round, probably 2 minutes in, he goes for that the trip. He was trying a lot of judo moves throughout the fight, which seems strange that he wanted to go to the ground, because Lionheart made he minced no words in saying, look, I'm a legit black belt. So he said that before the fight. So it was well known that he wanted to go to that strategy.
So why do you keep saying that you're going to take Anthony Smith down at practice?
Since when?
I'm kidding.
Look, last time you almost got me murdered. Look, Anthony Smith. You
got to talk your smack now. He's got a broken hand. Like, he's
you got a chance, man. You got a chance.
I got to be honest with you. I've seen that man in practice with a broken hand. He'd still take me out in the 1st round. With full knowledge that his hand is broken, he would take me out in that 1st round.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I couldn't. I'm
legit skipping practice the rest of this week. I don't need that.
He's gonna be putting hits out on you.
I think that happened last time.
Okay, so what
I wanted to hit one quick thing on the way you described the finish. I think what got missed in what was beautiful about just the skill set of Lionheart is as he takes Alexander's back and Alexander's trying to posture up and let Anthony slide off, Anthony's able to get his arms hooked under Alexander so he can't fall forward, and then he takes his left hand and pushes himself back up off the top of Alexander's head. It's the epitome of using skill and not falling prey to fatigue. Like, he stuck in there with beautiful technique and was able to ride out a very tall guy, a guy who's 6'5", and once he stands up, that leverage just would normally push guys off the top. And for Lionheart to show that true Lionheart and stick with something that most people would have slid off, I think that's the real differentiator in the fight.
All right, John, you were saying that there was real news. Like, this wasn't the real news. What's the real news?
That after the fight, Alexander Gustafsson threw his gloves in the ring and left them there and said, that's it.
Okay. Why? I don't understand why. Like,
okay.
Why? Tell me.
He fought 3 different championship matches, and he lost all 3. And if you go back to some of the earlier hype for this fight, he said if he couldn't beat Lionheart, he was going to retire. He said that. And so he's just following through. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel bad for the man, but he said it. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore, and that's a smart analysis of himself. That he's fought John Jones twice, he's fought DC once, and now that's my died. Oh God.
Somebody passed out. Like, oh my gosh, who did all of that? That's a career.
Oh wow.
That was him throwing everything he had and the kitchen sink.
Yes. So with all that, and then he fights Anthony Smith, which he grossly underestimated because just because he's new to the scene, people really need to look at that record.
He's not new to the scene. That's the crazy part.
Well, that's the whole point I'm bringing. That he's been around for a while, and if people look at that record and actually count how many fights he's been in, he's seen some things. Okay, and people underestimate him just because he just showed up. He's just new to the UFC. He's not new to the fight scene, people. Okay, he's brutal. So, congrats to Anthony Smith for being another legend killer once again. So, will we call Gustafsson a giant or a legend? We'll call him a giant.
I think you call him a giant. I don't think you call him a legend because he didn't win those big fights, but he did. His name is attached to at least two of the greatest light heavyweight fights of all time.
Yes, and unfortunately, he's still the bridesmaid and not the bride.
So here's the thing that I gotta go back to this. Like someone like Alexander Gustafsson, who lost. I feel like he lost because of a mental error.
Right.
You know, he lost his last fight to arguably the greatest mixed martial artist in the history of the sport. You go back before then, he knocks out Glover Teixeira. You know what I'm saying? It's like this guy is still an elite MMA mixed martial artist. I don't know why he's choosing to retire when you got someone like Jimmy Manuel who's getting wasted like just freaking. Why didn't he leave his gloves in the ring?
Because some people in their mind says, I'm not. When you've gotten beat by the champions, not once, but not twice, but 3 times by 2 different champions. Once you've done that, that goes to, that messes with you. That should tell you, do I really have what it takes to make it to the next level? And unfortunately, he's weighing himself versus 2 of arguably the best fighters ever. Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't do that because those guys are levels above. I mean, there's John Jones, asterisk, and DC, and then there's everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, we were Casey and I this morning were talking about Pygmalion. And this is what it is that you go in there saying, if I can't win this fight, I'm going to retire. You've already put yourself on a path to retire. And you know, I don't know. It's I'm disappointed that Alexander Gustafsson, you know, is leaving the sport, at least for the time being, because I think he still has fights to win. I think that he still has stories to write. You got John Jones. Maybe you can work your way into a 3rd fight. I don't know, but
you can't.
You know, eventually you keep fighting. There may be other opportunities. Maybe he goes up to heavyweight and fights at heavyweight. He's 6'5". Tell me he can't make 206.
Oh God, not this again.
I'm just saying, if you're 206, you're a heavyweight. If you're 220, you're a heavyweight. He can fight at heavyweight. All he's got to be is 225 for your 40-pound rule.
Okay, so once again, I'm going to emphasize the obsession that this man has, because see, much like the obsession between John Jones and Daniel Cormier, Alexander has that obsession too, that he wants to be the very best. He's gotten beaten back from that table.
Yeah, but I mean, you're repeating the same thing. Like, there's still other opportunities, you know, at heavyweight. I mean, I don't know that there's a heavyweight out there that can run with Alexander Gustafsson.
I don't know if Gustafsson can run with 25 pounds on him.
Yeah,
maybe not.
That's a task.
Maybe not.
As you should know.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what you're talking about because I won the fight. I didn't need to run. I just needed a jab, just like Alexander Gustafsson was using that jab. That's all I needed. I just didn't try to take you down or stand right close to you so you could hit me with some brutal hook that you eventually landed and almost knocked me out with. And that is why I'm retired as a fighter. Speaking of retired as a fighter, speaking of big hooks and standing inside big guys against shorter men,
Man.
Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz Jr., June 1st, 2019 in Madison Square Garden, New York City. Andy Ruiz Jr. defeated Anthony Joshua by TKO and wins
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
3 heavyweight world titles. Like,
I'm sorry, I'm so cutting you off.
no, I'm just all I'm going to say is
excited.
all I'm going to say is underdogs of underdogs. This is it. This is Gabriel Iglesias versus freaking Debo.
Terry Crews. Just say Terry Crews.
No, Terry Crews is short. Debo, aka
Tiny Lister.
Tiny Lister Jr., aka Zeus, is 6'8". Like, that's Debo.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't know Terry Crews was short. I thought he was always tall. I thought he was tall.
They make him look tall. How tall is Terry Crews?
I thought he was like
5'10".
Get out.
I made that up on the spot,
Okay.
but it was believable.
Okay, Terry Crews is not short, but he's not as tall. He's not as tall as Anthony Joshua.
How tall is he?
Terry Crews is 6'3".
Yeah, exactly.
He's my height.
Go away.
Yeah.
You go ahead and take that L real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that L right here. Yeah, here we go. Look, I'm gonna just go ahead and take that L.
Well played, sir.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so how big is this? So you've got Anthony Joshua, who is on May 31st. Anthony Joshua is the heavyweight champion of the world, 22-0, 21 knockouts. This guy is considered the greatest thing ever to happen to heavyweight. He is fighting a dude who is, I don't know, what is he, 5'10"? How tall is Andy Ruiz? Can you, either one of you guys look that up?
I'm looking it up as we talk.
Andy Ruiz is this little Mexican guy who only has 4 weeks to prepare for the greatest heavyweight in our generation. And he wins. It's unbelievable.
Well, see,
Unbelievable.
The story of how it happened is hilarious because
All right, catch us up on how it happened. How did it happen?
It basically, it was luck. It was just luck. He just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Anthony Joshua was looking for a fighter because his original opponent had to bow out because he failed like multiple P tests. So they were looking. Nobody wanted to fight him. Well, here comes Andy Ruiz Jr., who said about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he just got through fighting. He's like, look, I want to fight Anthony Joshua. I want to knock him out. So the story goes. He shows up. He is, I don't know. Let's see, how tall is this cat?
6'2".
6'2". Okay, so
He's 6'2". And he looked like he was 5 feet tall,
6'2"?
next to 6'6"
Yes.
Anthony Joshua.
Oh my gosh.
yes. And he
How?
looked like Little Mac off of Mike Tyson Punch Out. Okay, I mean he looked short. Okay, but this guy came in there and he did the business. Okay, and let's see here. Oh wow, his record. He's 33-1.
Yeah, he put some time in as an amateur.
Oh my goodness, he's a murderer. Okay? He's a murderer. He's a Mexicutioner. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
So
so
what I
we
liked
don't follow.
about Ruiz,
Look, for our listeners out there, we don't typically follow boxing a whole lot. So this wasn't on our radar on episode 96. It wasn't something that we were going to give a whole lot of attention to because it was assumed that Anthony Joshua was going to run through Andy Ruiz Jr. But it was funny listening to them on the fight. They're like, Anthony Ruiz Jr. has had to fight taller guys his whole career. He knows how to get inside. He's a crafty counterpuncher. And this was the fight that Anthony Joshua overlooked because he's got bigger and better things. He's got Deontay Wilder, which we're going to talk about in the next segment. Tyson Fury's floating around. There's a lot of big fights in the U.S. that Anthony Joshua was licking his chops over. He just needed to get past Andy Ruiz Jr., and he didn't realize that Andy Ruiz Jr. is a legitimate fighter. He don't look like one. He looked like Butterball.
Butterbean, but yeah.
Butterbean.
No.
And a lot of people overlook Butterbean. Okay. Butterbean's a killer. Or...
and Butterball, the turkey.
And,
so real quick, though.
Yeah.
I don't fully agree with the narrative that's been floated around with Stephen A. Smith and in some regard what you're parroting here, which is that Anthony Joshua didn't come ready to fight. Like he was looking forward to something else and wasn't there. I don't think that's the case. Like if you watch the fight camps, he was taking it very seriously. So it's something that I mean, I don't follow a ton of boxing, but I'm a fan of Anthony Joshua as a fellow Nigerian. What I saw happen is what was kind of missed in the broadcast, which they talk about how big Anthony Joshua is, that he can just lay his arms on the rope. He came into the boxing ring looking dejected already. His body language was just trash. He did not look like he was there for that moment. I wouldn't say that he overlooked his opponent. I just don't think he was well. If you look at the way he walks back after the first round, he's walking back and already looks done.
Casey, I can agree with you, but guess what? He walked in that ring. He said, "I was ready to fight."
Yeah, but you can't walk out away from that situation.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. I bet he wish he could.
You can walk away from that situation if you're ill. If you are ill, you just say, "Hey, folks, we'll do it again, but I'm too sick to fight." That's what you say. I mean, I sent this to you, but if you go back and look at Anthony Lionheart Smith, when he walked into the ring, there was something on his chest. I'm going to guess and say he probably was fighting a staph infection during that fight.
Ew.
And so, it's one of those things where if you're sick and you're too sick to fight, then you let people know that you're too sick to fight. Even communicate that. But the thing is this: in the third round, Anthony Joshua knocked Andy Ruiz down, and I forgot who I should have added it to the to our channel, just because it was an interesting take on what happened with Anthony Joshua. But there was another fighter. He's like a super cruiserweight champion in the UK, and he was talking about, I think his name is Baloo. So I think look up Baloo. He was saying that Anthony Joshua was leaving his head in places that he wouldn't have normally done if he didn't think he was going to win that fight. That Anthony Joshua was fighting with a bit of recklessness after he knocked Andy Ruiz down that he wouldn't have done if he didn't think that he was going to win that fight. And that's what ended up eventually catching him. So maybe going into the training camp, he wasn't overlooking Ruiz, but I don't know how you don't overlook Ruiz when the guy only had 4 weeks to prepare.
So here's how I put it. So being the guy who's been in that situation where you don't feel 100% great, but you step in there. Once you've got that guy on the ropes and you've knocked him down, you're like, all right, I've got one good burst in me. If I can knock him out, then this whole thing is over and we can all go home. And if you look at just the body language, go back and watch it. After he knocks down Ruiz, he comes back with everything he has. And if you've noticed, his jabs were getting lower and lower as the fight went. It wasn't that he was actually throwing body shots. His jabs were just super low. His hands start going down before he starts dropping his hands, even before he goes in for the kill. After the kill, he has nothing left in him. He has nothing. It's not that he's taking for granted what Ruiz is. And again, this is watching the fight with hindsight being 20/20 and knowing the outcome. But if you watch for it, you can see everything about his boxing stance relaxes. He's got nothing left. He's taking big breaths, and he's just trying to breathe. So I don't think it was like, oh, I'm going to cruise through this. This is a man who is sick.
All right.
He's not well.
Well, the fortunate thing when you're you're holding 3 championship belts and you're the title holder in 4 or 5 different promotions, you have a rematch clause. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. Because this happened to Lennox Lewis, right? I mean, Lennox Lewis talked about how, the thing about champions who get caught the way he had, because Lennox Lewis had united or had united all the heavyweight titles, unified. That's the word I was looking for. And then he lost to a significant underdog, and then he came back and he won that fight and he kept winning. So this is a story that we've seen before. All I got to say is this: Andy Ruiz Jr. is a real deal. We're going to see what happens. They're going to have to go to UK, and they're going to fight this fight again. We're going to see what happens with Anthony Joshua. Hopefully he comes into the ring healthy. Yeah. But if it happens again, dude,
he'll be 34-1.
He'll be 34-1. And Deontay Wilder, who let me just say, Deontay Wilder called Anthony Joshua all kinds of stuff. I thought it was kind of ruthless the way he was calling him, like, exposed and all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know.
He was calling 8 different ways of saying trash.
Yeah.
Okay, honestly. I mean, he was really on.
But you know what the most disrespectful thing that I thought happened on Saturday night? And then we'll move on. The most disrespectful thing that I think happened on Saturday night is that they crowned Andy Ruiz Jr. The first heavyweight champion of Mexican descent. And if I was Cain Velasquez, I'd be like, screw all of y'all.
Oh. So you're saying Cain should have came out like with a luchador mask and like hit him over the head with a chair or something?
Something like that. Because, I mean, the fact is that Cain Velasquez is the first heavyweight champion of Mexican descent.
Not in boxing, though. Come on.
Not in boxing.
Well, not in boxing, but you can't say that.
Talking about overall.
Yeah, they're saying boxing. Hey, boxing and MMA got beef.
I'm just saying.
Cross promoting here.
Listen, all I'm saying is I heard what they said, and I needed to correct the record. Let the record show that Cain Velasquez is the first heavyweight champion of Mexican descent. Andy, you did great, but you're number 2.
Okay, we'll accept it. I'm just saying, this wasn't Zuffa boxing, so that's the only time that boxing will ever do a cross promotion and respect the UFC is when it becomes Zuffa boxing.
All right.
Honestly, Cain and Ruiz are kind of starting to look the same as far as body shapes, so that'd be a fun. I've watched that fight.
Hey, round is a shape, dude. Round is a shape. Okay?
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you need that extra padding. All right, that concludes. Let's close the book on this one. Let's put it back on the shelf because these cards are history. And let's look into what the topics are of the week in Finding the Angles.
Finding the Angles.
This is Finding the Angles. This is where we talk about the topics that people are focused on this week. First one that I want to get into is UFC titleist. The strawweight title, Jessica Andrade, was carjacked at gunpoint in Brazil. These people are not playing down in Brazil.
I could have told you that. Heck, that's GTA land, man.
Oh,
Good
man.
Lord.
I just, that's just a scary thing. Like, I'm glad she didn't have, like, her belt in the car or something like that.
Yeah, they told to come up off of it. Run that belt. Okay, that's what they were doing. We're not laughing at Jessica Andrade for getting jacked. I don't know, why are we laughing at it? It's kind of violent.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. You guys are cold and heartless.
I mean,
this lady was afraid for her life.
How can you be afraid when you just head kicked the girl the other night?
She didn't head kick any girl.
Okay, I'm just saying. You are the champion. You could have. I mean, she did the right thing by, giving up her vehicle and everything like that. That's the smartest thing to do when you're unarmed and the other person is armed.
That's right. However, she ain't a basketball player. She can't block that shot.
Okay, I'm just saying. Dad jokes.
Better.
Yeah, dad jokes. I'm just saying, dude. anybody that's ever played Grand Theft Auto, okay, and I think it is banned in Brazil because they don't need Grand Theft Auto. They got it for live action. Yeah, I would have drove down nowhere with a nice car. I'm riding a raggedy a Pinto in Brazil. If I ever go to Brazil, I'm not riding no brand new car. I'm not flossing nothing. Okay, all my stuff coming from Walmart. I know they got a Walmart in Brazil somewhere.
All right.
I think it's a Carrefour, actually. Is that bad that I knew that?
Yeah.
Y'all just left me hanging there. Okay, cool. Cool.
That was good. I mean, you stunned us into silence. Okay, that was pretty good.
So Nick Newell is back. So I am a big fan of Nick Newell, and we've talked a lot about Nick Newell, but he's the one with the congenital defect that left him with only one hand, and on his other hand, it stops right at about the wrist. And his dream was to come back and fight in the UFC, and he missed it. He lost by decision at Dana White's Tuesday night contender series, and so that kind of put his dream of being in the UFC off. And so it's been like a year and a half since that happened, and now he's starting to make his way back into promotion. So he's fighting in a promotion in the Northeast. I think it's called CES or something like that. And he's basically saying, my dream is to get into the UFC. I'm going to keep fighting. These are the best fighters that I can fight right now, and then I'm going to keep working my way back to the UFC. And so I am supporting this guy. I'm giving him tons of props for not giving up on his dream. Pay attention, Alexander Gustafsson.
That's an unnecessary cheap shot, but yeah.
I'm just saying, don't give up on your dream. Find another way. If you can't be light heavyweight champion, be heavyweight champion. That's what Daniel Cormier did. What?
Hey, come out of retirement.
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah,
is it recorded? What?
Yeah.
Hey, are you trying to be Deontay Wilder right now? What is all this shade?
I know, right?
The darkness.
Ryan has gone full dark side on us. Like, okay. Charlotte Murphy.
I know, right?
Game blouses.
Man, why do you keep referencing the Prince episode when it's the Rick James episode?
Because the Prince one is so much better. And I can't say the line for the Rick James episode.
Yeah. I mean, the Prince episode was pretty raw, man. Okay. I mean, because I didn't even know about it until you actually look back at Prince's history and find out, he was on the varsity basketball team. The kid got jumps at 5'5".
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about Dave Chappelle's show.
I'm sorry. If you don't know what we're talking about, y'all
listen, have you seen the demographics of our audience? There's a chance that they may not know what we're talking about. We're talking about the Chappelle show. Dave Chappelle, he did with Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's older brother. They did two true Hollywood stories. One was Rick James, one was Prince. You got to watch them both because they're both comedy classics.
I'm sorry. Dave Chappelle is probably the funniest comedian out there today. Period.
False.
Period.
False.
Woo! What? Who is funnier than Dave Chappelle?
Don't believe the hype.
Oh, really? Really? Is this what we're getting?
Yes.
Is this what we're getting? And still? Okay. Goodness. Who is funnier than Dave Chappelle?
That has nothing to do with MMA. This is an MMA podcast. That is a direct digression.
My answer was Chris Cyborg.
She is kind of funny, though.
I mean, until South African police got her.
Yeah, that's right. So UFC 240, we have a fight with Chris Cyborg. Now, as you guys know, Chris Cyborg was the hands down greatest female fighter in the world until she met Amanda Nunes, and Amanda Nunes caught her and knocked her out in multiple buffer factor fails. So Chris Cyborg is coming back against Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer just fought about two and a half weeks ago. She's from Canada, and she called out Chris Cyborg after she defeated Megan Anderson. So she defeated Megan Anderson via rear naked choke. It was a beautiful finish because Megan Anderson is a literal giant, and Felicia Spencer is, just this lightning bolt. And she submitted Megan Anderson and then called out Chris Cyborg. Chris Cyborg said, okay. And now it's booked.
Normal.
Huh?
It's normal.
It's normal.
And she sounded just like that. Okay, hey, Chris Cyborg, don't find me, please. Don't find me.
Chris Cyborg is going to eat Felicia Spencer for lunch. I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm ready to see Chris Cyborg get back in the win column and them start figuring out what they're going to do with the featherweight division.
Yeah, I expect Chris Cyborg to come back and destroy her too, soul and all.
Yep.
Because it's nothing. She is that fighter that that if she feels like that she didn't do well in one performance, that next performance is going to be destructive, and she lost. So God have mercy on anybody's soul that walks in that octagon. I'm feeling sorry for old chick. I'm feeling sorry for the ref. I might feel sorry for the cornermen, okay, because they might get some of that too. All right, so it's going to be destructive, people.
What you saying? You saying Chris Cyborg's going to go Habib Nurmagomedov on her? Like she's going to finish Felicia Spencer, then jump the cage, go after her corner, start fighting folks in the audience.
I'm just saying. I played Mortal Kombat over the weekend. I fully expect that to happen.
Who do you play with?
Okay. Whoever. It's whomever.
Who do you play with?
Johnny Cage. I'm usually Johnny Cage.
You use Johnny Cage?
Yes.
Shoot, I'll beat you with Raiden.
Y'all are nerds.
I'll beat you with Raiden.
We're not doing this.
I will pull your spine out.
Dude, that's not even Raiden's. That's not Raiden's.
I will electrocute you and blow your head up.
Yeah, I know the spine is Scorpion.
I will finish you.
Failed on your part, Casey, is Sub-Zero. Okay, Sub-Zero pulls the spine out.
Well, I don't play video games.
There you go.
I live them.
All right. Speaking about someone who does play video games, Deontay Wilder. I don't know if he plays video games or not. I'm just trying to make the segue.
Like, based on what?
Is he yelling at the green? Still, is he doing that
His
too?
co-manager, Shelly Finkel, revealed the next 3 fights will be Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Luis Ortiz. Now, that's probably going to change given that Anthony Joshua got beat, and so Anthony Joshua is going to be wrapped up in a rematch. So the next fight for Deontay Wilder is going to be Luis Ortiz, which is a fight that I'm glad they're rewinding because I think Luis Ortiz was going to win that fight until the 10th round, and Deontay Wilder knocked him out. So
what? Wait, stop. Okay,
yes.
he was going to win that fight until he got knocked out. Really? Did you just say that?
That did sound like a casual right there.
No, Deontay Wilder was losing that fight on the cards
until he knocked the dude out.
Until he knocked him out. Yeah, like I want to see that fight back because I think Luis Ortiz, if he doesn't get knocked out, might beat Deontay Wilder. The thing is, Tyson Fury was beating Deontay Wilder on the cards until, I think he beat him on the cards, but they ruled the fight in favor of Deontay Wilder, or it was a draw. I don't really remember.
I think it was a draw.
But I had Tyson Fury winning that fight. So the thing is Deontay Wilder, as much as he talks crap about Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder is beatable if you can just avoid getting knocked out or knocked down. Like, that's how he stays in fights.
I thought you were gonna comment on that. Okay. You're saying exactly
strategy.
Yeah, that's strategy there. That's power. He's going to knock you out. You're in a sport that will knock you out. Okay?
So basically, you out of John Madden. As long as the other guy doesn't.
As long as the other guy doesn't get knocked out, he could win the fight.
You see, Pat. Like, what? Yeah, you describe boxing. Congratulations.
Okay, that's why I stick with MMA, man. For those of you who like boxing and they're listening to this podcast, please understand I have watched MMA for like 13 years. I've only watched boxing for just a very short period of time. I'm still getting up to speed. As I understand it, you don't want to get knocked out. Do I have it right? That what happened to Anthony Joshua is not supposed to happen.
This is comedy right here. This is gold. I was just waiting for you to circle the teleprompter and say, boom.
Well, did you see the pants on? Did you see the sweat stains on?
Oh, all right, John.
Yeah, there's Pat Summerall. Dude, we just turned this into a full. Look about that. We did comedy with Dave Chappelle. We did football with John Madden and Pat Summerall. We've done boxing. We've done MMA. We've done it all. But we haven't done bare knuckle FC. That's what we haven't done.
Well, I was going to say, we still had AEW. I mean, they had their Double or Nothing pay-per-view on there. And
yes, but we're talking about bare knuckle FC 6. Okay. They're fighting in Florida. And here's the thing. I feel like they didn't do their research before they booked the venue in Florida. Here's why. Because bare knuckle FC, and you know, I don't mean to be Captain Obvious here, but the object is to fight with your knuckles bare.
Yeah.
But in Florida, you have to wear gloves if you are going to fight. What was that? Did we just go back in time? What happened?
I know. I was like, did Debbie Gibson show up somewhere? Is she going to start singing on this?
I mean, that's what happens when you go to Florida and fight.
So here's the thing. If you're going to have a sanctioned fight in Florida, you have to wear gloves. If you are a promotion called Bare Knuckle FC, you're not supposed to wear gloves. So what do? They are designing gloves where the knuckles are bare. Now talk about the goofiest looking gloves. I can't even imagine what they're going to look like. But clearly someone did not do their research before they booked the venue, or else you don't hold bare knuckle FC fights in a state where you have to have gloves.
Well, you know the reputation of Florida, don't you, sir? It is not a place of sanity, if I may say so. And you know what? And I'll say this because I have trained in Florida. I've met the locals there, and every morning I see crime reports from Florida. And some of the things that I've seen, it causes me to pause for a few minutes every morning while I'm sitting there getting ready for my day, because I need a laugh before I start my day, and Florida provides it every morning. Thank you, Florida. This is actually not that bad.
But this is not Florida. This is bare knuckle FC. Okay. Like, you're blaming Florida. No, Florida's like, if you're going to have a fight in Florida, you have to wear gloves. Why? Okay. Because I don't think that they wanted to sanction bare knuckle fighting in Florida. Why? Because of people like Kimbo Slice and Dada 5000, who were sitting there fighting in backyards in Miami-Dade.
Don't forget Jorge Masvidal. He was doing it too.
Okay, so it makes sense. Like, to stop the brutality of backyard fighting, if you're gonna fight in Florida, you have to have gloves, right? So now you have to have gloves. But you're gonna book a bare knuckle fighting promotion in Florida where you have to wear gloves. It's clear they didn't know that rule existed.
So they rule lawyered it. Okay, this is anybody who. All right, here's, I'm showing my geekdom here, so forgive me,
your mother.
People. Almost Big Bang Theory. Okay, by D&D terms. Okay, what they did a rules lawyer there. Okay. Oh, we gotta have gloves to wear. We'll fix that. We have gloves now, because technically we have gloves, and they will and I guarantee somebody went in there and looked at the technical definition of a glove and found that yes, as long as it covers the hand, meaning the palm, the knuckles can be exposed. Therefore, we got bare knuckles, baby. We're ready to fight.
Okay, so I think the bottom line to this is my message to Bare Knuckle FC.
Aha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders.
So there you go.
did that
Excellent
come from?
drop. Well played. Look at the production value on this one.
That's right. We're getting legit. So speaking about rule lawyering, someone who got lawyered up and got $27 million in a lawsuit, Yoel Romero making that Conor McGregor money.
Man,
He's fighting with the laws.
So this is one where I am ridiculously happy for Yoel Romero. His reputation suffered immensely from the accusations of him being a cheater. You look at the back and forth lip sparring between him and Bisping. And the fact that it truly did derail his progression up the ladder for the UFC. Yoel Romero comes out not just a victor in financial terms, but it puts his reputation back on top, and it also sets a precedent for the for other UFC fighters to hold accountable these drug makers. So
my question is, does that? $27 million. Goodness, people, that's a lot of money.
I got a lot of quit in me. You give me that payday, you're not going to see me for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know if he fights again. Like, why? Why do I need to fight? I'm not fighting for money anymore.
Because he loves Luke Rockhold, and he wants a piece of that. He wants to get a piece of that.
No.
Luke is retired.
Did Luke retire? Did he retire?
Luke did not retire. Luke is trying to get into light heavyweight. You know who Luke wants? Luke wants to fight Alexander Gustafsson. Alex, there's a fight for you. Don't leave.
Everyone should just retire. Everyone's
Don't
bad.
leave me, girl.
Alex is gone, Ryan. Okay.
Don't leave, Alex.
It's done. He said
I'm gonna tweet out after this. Don't leave, Alex. You gotta punch Luke Rockhold in the face.
No, he has. I need somebody to punch Yoel.
To quote Akeem,
what
in the face?
Yes. I love Yoel Romero, but man, come on, dude. All right.
I love you, boy.
He is still owed a punch for sitting on that stool for Tim Kennedy.
No,
Okay.
no.
I loved it.
He's on the clothesline. Okay, for that one.
He doesn't owe anybody anything for sitting on the stool for Tim Kennedy. Sorry.
Okay.
Tim
That's
Kennedy.
a rule thing.
He should have He should have ran over there and clotheslined him. I'm sorry.
So no.
I don't. And Tim. I'm just saying, Tim Kennedy robbed. Okay, and we know this. Anybody who sits there and disputes that he was not robbed, I can't say it on air because it's a family show.
All right. We know what happened to Tim Kennedy. We can't assume that our listeners know what happened to Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy was a fighter. Came from Strikeforce, which was a promotion like the UFC that was purchased by the UFC, and those fighters got consolidated in. Tim Kennedy was on a nice roll. He was beating up UFC guys left and right, really giving prestige to Strikeforce. And he came up against Yoel Romero, and Yoel Romero in the second round was getting whooped by Tim Kennedy, and so but he was saved by the bell.
Yes.
And so Yoel Romero was rocked, stumbling back to his corner. And so his corner took forever to get out of the ring, left him sitting on the stool longer than the minute that he's supposed to have between rounds. Mm-hmm. And it allowed him the ability to recover. And in the third round, he knocked Tim Kennedy into next week. And some people, John Keys, still harbors animosity towards Yoel Romero for something that happened like half a decade ago.
Okay, and yes, it did happen. Actually, it was. Yeah, it's been half a decade. But still, all right, a robbery is a robbery. Okay, no matter how long. There's no statute of limitations for catching a butt kicking. Okay, there's no statute of limitations.
The filter does work. Casey, you see that?
Yeah.
Prefrontal cortex for the win.
Yeah. It worked this time. But he that was wrong. Tim Kennedy for he's a fellow brother of the BDU. Okay, the Battle Dress Uniform. He is a former Ranger. I will support Tim Kennedy. I may not respect his political views, but I will support him as a fighter. Okay, and the fact that he got robbed in that ring is an injustice everywhere.
I don't know. He should have been a better fighter.
Well, speaking about
clotheslined him. That's how you be a better fighter.
Speaking about somebody who got robbed in the ring and who was doing some robberies, let's get into the fight card. This is the Fight Guard. This is where we look forward to the fights that are happening this week. And when we talk about people who robbing people in the octagon, nobody is at the top of the list in front of Henry Cejudo, who robbed Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson of a belt and dang near destroyed the 125-pound division in the process. Now the dude is fighting for the 135-pound bantamweight belt against Marlon Moraes, and like the whole world is about to just fall apart. I'm just so disappointed because probably Marlon Moraes is going to win this fight, but they're going to hand it to Henry Cejudo anyway.
Wow.
Bitter much, huh?
Yes, because I cannot stand seeing people walk away with belts that they didn't earn, KC. I mean, I'm just saying it's UFC 238. It's Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes.
I'm excited about this card. There's some interesting ones in there.
There are some interesting fights. This is Saturday, June 8th, 2019 at the United Center, home of the Chicago Bulls in Chicago, Illinois. We have 5 fights on the card plus one that we're going to talk about. Blagoy Ivanov is versus Tai Tuivasa. It's a heavyweight fight. Jimmy Rivera versus Peter Yan. Donald Cowboy Cerrone welcomes back Tony Ferguson. Then we have two championship fights. The first is a UFC Women's Flyweight Championship bout versus Valentina Shevchenko, the champion, and Jessica Evil Eye, for those of you who are keeping track.
I don't want to get hit anymore.
Yeah, we'll see.
I can't.
And then in the main event of the evening, the UFC flyweight holder of the belt, whom I will not say the C word for, Henry Cejudo, is facing off against Marlon Moraes for the bantamweight title that was vacated by TJ Dillashaw. So we're going to pick 4 fights on this card. We're going to save the 4th fight for just a little bit after we pick the first 3. Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson. I'm going to go with the Nostradamus. Who you got?
Oh, Cowboy. How about them Cowboys?
All right. The keys to victory. Encyclopedia keys. It's going to go with Brown, but it wouldn't have made sense.
No, it wouldn't. No. I'm going Cowboy. That Cowboy gets it. He puts a beating on him.
Oh, yes. Donald Cowboy Cerrone is going to get it from El Kukui. I have to go with Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is my boy. He is going to win this fight. I think he gets a finish. He's going to cut Donald Cerrone up with those razors we call elbows and knees, and then we're going to finish this fight. It is not going to go all 3 rounds. Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko versus Jessica Evil Eye. John, who you got?
I'm going with Valentina Shevchenko. I think she's got the tools to go ahead and rock 'em, sock 'em to the eye. So I'm going for that.
KC.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Jessica, I don't want to be hit anymore. Jessica, I wasn't ready for this. Jessica, I shouldn't even be here.
Wow.
Is going to take that loss.
Yeah. Valentina is not Antonina. And so Valentina Shevchenko is going to win this fight in dominant fashion. I think Jessica gets bloodied up. I don't think this goes 5 rounds.
Oh, there's no chance it goes all 5.
No, I think this is an overwhelming force.
Wow, you're going that far. I was thinking second round.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time. So I'm going to go. Actually, it won't go past 4. Let me say that.
Okay.
All right. In the main event of the evening, Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. We'll go with you, John. Who you got?
And still, Henry Cejudo.
No, not and still. It'll be and new. Either way, it's and new because it's for the bantamweight title.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's going to be for Henry Cejudo. He will win. He will win by decision.
All right. KC?
Nope. Marlon Moraes. You've heard it here
first. Thank you for pronouncing it correctly, sir.
Marlon all day.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what the Nostradamus says because the fact is that there is not a fight that I'm going to pick Henry Cejudo for. Henry Cejudo, he can lose all his fights. Like I'm a rubber. If I was Aladdin, when the genie appears, I'd be like, Henry Cejudo never wins another fight ever again.
Wow.
Well, he's like, what's your second wish? That Henry Cejudo loses the rest of those fights. Well, what's your third wish? That Henry Cejudo doesn't ever fight again. There. All three wishes against Henry Cejudo.
Could have wasted it all.
World peace, not as important.
Yeah. Unless we're talking about meta world peace.
Meta world peace we'll take.
Oh, wow.
All right. So those are 3 picks. We got one more pick we got to pick. Yan Xiaojian versus Angela Overkill Hill. Casey, who you got?
Angie Hill all day. That girl don't lose.
See, man, that's not even cool, man. Okay, that's not cool. She won her last fight.
No, she didn't. She lost her last fight. You better check the record.
I thought she
Speaking of checking the record,
she lost her last fight.
She's the Czech Congo of this division. Y'all are sleeping on her. She's about to turn things around.
No, she's been sleeping. People have been putting her to sleep. John, who you got?
It depends on what she shows up as. If she comes in as Dalsim, she will not win. If she comes in with with Ryu, or hell, she might even do Chun-Li. If she comes in dressed as Chun-Li, she's got to win.
I kind of feel like fighting Yan Xiaonan, if she comes in as Chun-Li, that's going to be a little bit inappropriate.
A wee bit problematic.
Yeah, that's going to be like cultural appropriation, all kinds of racist stuff happening.
What? Yeah, you're right.
Her name is Yan Xiaonan. I'm going to guess and say she's from China. If not China, Taiwan, which, for my Taiwanese people out there, I know it's different, but the rest of the world don't necessarily recognize that. I'm going with Yan. I'm going with her. She's 13-1. 13-1 versus 1-13 in her last 14. I'm gonna go with.
Wow, Angela Overkill Hill, people. She will run up on you, dude. I'm
31 flavors, and you still choose to be salty.
Oh, wow.
Hey, man.
Good.
Listen, all I gotta say is Angela Hill seems like she would be a cool person to hang out with. All I gotta ask is, how come she and Jimmy Manuel are still fighting? That's all I want to know.
Oh, and sir, you can eat that crow because Angela Hill won her last fight.
She lost her last fight.
Let's see here. I'm looking at. No, you know what? This is outdated. Darn it.
Wait, hold on.
No. It is up to date. Her last fight was against Jody Escobar.
Yes, she did win that.
Yes, she did. So eat it, Ryan. Eat it.
No, I got to see it for myself.
Drop, please.
I got to see it for myself. I don't believe y'all.
I need that drop. Text me that tomorrow, because oh my goodness, that is gold.
You got some people that need that in your life. Okay,
just Ryan. I want that to be his ringtone on our next bet. If he loses, I want his ringtone to be "Eat it, Ryan, eat it."
Okay, and for everybody that didn't know, Xiaonan Yan, thank you. Her nickname is Fury, and she is from the Xinjiang province of Xinjiang, Liaoning province of China.
I was trying, but man, I think you just ordered food.
I think I did, man.
You did this poorly.
She's 10-1, and she's even between KOs and decisions. So, with only one, and the one loss that she had is by submission. So,
all right, I'm gonna accept it, even though it's not updated on the UFC website.
Share Dog, baby. Sorry. Hey, shout out to Share Dog. All right.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
For handing Ryan the L. Thank you.
They don't. All I got to say is Angela Hill. They don't even update her results on the UFC. There's multiple that fights, and they didn't even put who won the fight. But
This is like she
for
was
John,
present.
so we look, we way over time. For John, here you go. I'm eating the crow.
Fair enough.
There you go. All right. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan, and John
At Keys to Victory. And that's Keys with a yes.
There you go. On Instagram, I am at Combat Sports Talk KC.
I am at Push Pull Pray.
And John?
At Keys to Victory once again.
You can go to our website at www.combatsportstalk.com, and you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, though, give us some comments, give us some likes, give us a 5 stars. Come on, we need it. We have merchandise. Just go to our website and click the merchandise link. And this weekend, I think I'm going to be able to sit with George G Money Stallworth as we watch Marlon Moraes win the 135-pound title, and Yan Xiaonan is going to win against Angela Hill. There you go. And we're going to have that on our live events. I'm going to be talking much smack, and I'm going to be as salty as I want to be. Let's get out of here.
You do you, boo-boo.
I will do me. All right, let's get out of here. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com, and Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For Casey Onyebuchi and John Keys, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.